diving in.
Sweet.
So basically, you're 57, right?
56.
I always give you a year. I don't know.
I know. Well, I was telling people like all last month. Somebody asked like how, like 2 or 3 people. I was like 57, and then Hillary was like, "Dude, you're 56." I was like, "Oh fuck yeah."
That's probably why I think you're 57. You probably told me you're
I
57.
probably did.
But you're 57. You're still active and fast in mountain biking and snow skiing, which is cool. And I can attest to the fast because just different buddies of mine that you've ridden with, like AC and Richard, they'll link up with you or meet you out or like run into you out there, and they're like, "Fuck, dude still gets after it." Like when you meet him, he says he still gets after it, and then when you ride with him, you're like, "I can't keep up," which like that's good validation. And then I've seen you snow ski, which it's cool. And if we look at the typical 56-year-old that thinks he's 57, that isn't how most people in your age group ride or play, which is dope. So what I want to talk to you about is where did you come from and what do you attribute it to? Because you still got stoke. That's super important. A lot of people lose their stoke sometime between 30 and 50. I don't know what happens, but there's a graveyard of stoke where people just aren't that fired up anymore. Because it does take effort to get out and do the things. Yeah. Like a significant amount of effort.
100%.
And then physically, you can still perform at a high level. And I think that's pretty dope. So let's rewind the clock let's start at high school. What did high school look like? Athletically, actively? Like what were you doing then? Organized and unorganized. I think both are important.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, if you go way back, being an only child, like in rural Idaho, I entertained myself, like, and I always, like, kind of learned by watching kind of person. Mm-hmm. So, I remember early on, being drawn to track and field, and I don't even know why. I mean, I do know it was the Olympics. You watch the Olympics, and I remember going outside and setting up sawhorses and was pretending to try to hurdle, and in later years in grade school, oddly enough in Idaho, they would put a high jump pit out on the playground and high jump standards. And so that was in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I quickly kind of learned that I was pretty good at it. Mm-hmm. I could jump way higher than anyone else on the playground. And I was like, well, damn, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so, that really kind of inspired me. So it was always like track and field but ball sports. I mean, in Idaho, growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was like football to basketball to track and field for me. I mean, you could take other routes in there. Like there was high school rodeo and wrestling, and
there's rodeo in
high school rodeo, and and a lot of these western states
they have that.
Still do.
Did not know that.
Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, I grew up around horses and motorcycles. So I was always super active, and kind of obsessive compulsive, I guess, a little bit. Like when I was young, my dad allowed me to start team roping. I mean, I'd be out there roping the dummy like incessantly during the day. But again, I was alone. I was kind of latchkey, I guess you could say. Yeah. I mean, my dad worked, my mom worked, and I just was left to my own devices. So, I rode motorcycles and did my thing. So, but I mean, high school was, when I got to high school, went right into the ball sport thing. So football, basketball, track and field every year. Yeah. And then, I skied in the winter a lot. We were really close to Sun Valley. My dad's company was up in Sun Valley, and then I skied at this little ski resort called Soldier Mountain. I mean, I probably was getting 40, 50 days a year in through my youth all the way up into high school. And then, of course, basketball, it was so weird in those days. Oh, you can't ski,
Oh,
I was
really?
like, are you kidding me? This is Wendell, Idaho basketball. I mean, I'm skiing. And I pulled back, because we had games and stuff. But, I mean, I still skied and... so that's kind of where it all came from. I feel, the motorcycles led to bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
I saved up money. Well, I got my first, I think, mountain bike in 1986 as a graduation present.
Hardtail, shitty springs
Hardtail,
up
piece
front.
of shit.
Yeah.
Like, absolute, just
You get down and you're just
dumpster.
like, my gooch.
And so I think, that when I had that bike a few years, and then I saved my money. I was working up construction up in Sun Valley, saved my money, and bought like my first like chromoly hardtail real bike. It was a Norco, full XT everything, handlebars. I thought it was the best thing ever. And then I think I did my first mountain bike race in 1989.
Okay, that's the year I was born. Throw that out there.
Crazy. But, I was lucky enough to run track and field in college, so collegiately, and I was a sprinter.
Did you do all 4 years there?
I ran for 4 years, yep.
And what were your events?
My specialty was hurdles.
Yeah.
That was my favorite event, and again, I think kind of my OCD-ness, like I was just a technician freak about hurdle technique, and I worked extremely hard at it, and it paid off. And I was lucky. I was quick. I'm a kind of a quick twitch muscle guy, which everyone finds odd because I put on the point to point and these other things that are more endurance oriented. But I trained myself to do that.
Well, it's somebody that is more fast twitch driven that takes up endurance work is usually going to do pretty good on a generalist. So like recreational athletes now, like if you're talking about like the best Olympians in the world, they're going to be just really fast at running really far. But for like recreational athletes, like fast twitch people are typically going to do a little bit better in a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you, when you started mountain biking, were you interested in like cross country? Was there enduro back then? Like what was
No,
available?
there wasn't enduro back at that point. And it kind of spawned off of, I love to race. I think hurdles, the 110 hurdles are like one of the coolest, like competitive, just get so much stoke and fire burning. And I loved that, I still get stoked about thinking about those races and prepping for them. And, so that really kind of was, hey, I'd like to do something else competitively as I was getting out of running track and field. And that door just kind of opened, and did one race and was like, oh, this is cool. It was really hard, and it was totally outside of my wheelhouse. Like I never really, I always thought I wanted to be good at cross country racing, and I'd work my ass off and ride mile after mile, out on the flats and just putting in the work. But I was always just kind of dangling off the podium, which was good. It's a good lesson. It's a lot of fun.
Kept you hungry.
Kept me hungry, yeah, for sure. But I raced for a long time and still, will dabble in it. But
yeah,
occasionally I'll knock one out of the park, but not very often on the long races.
Yeah.
But I still, I like to do it.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
So that was after college is when you got into mountain biking.
Yeah.
And you were still skiing kind of throughout. Did you ski in college?
Yeah. I went to Fresno State and was pretty close to the Sierra, so I started skiing quite a bit as I was getting out of the track and field scene, because that definitely took a chunk out of it. I was trying to go home to Idaho and ski when I could, on breaks and things of that nature, but started skiing at Sierra Summit again, and that just re-stoked the fire, so that was early 90s, and I was getting back into the skiing, and the bike thing was firing, and that was kind of all things, everything I did went that way.
Yeah. And then that's right after college. How soon after that did you get married, have a family? Because then you got a couple kids.
Yeah, so I mean, I was in Fresno working and doing the thing, I was working for an advertising agency, and was like, gotta get the hell out of California. This is not my jam necessarily. Absolutely love being in the mountains, and no better place than Jackson Hole. So that's where
Went to Jackson.
I just called this river company up. I was like, hey man, I want to move to Jackson. Do you have any work? And they were like, yeah, we'll put you to work. Just loaded up my shit, told the agency that I was boogieing, and that was it. And I told my mom and dad, you've all heard the story. I mean, I'm just gonna go for the summer and work on the river, and then go try to find a job. And
10 years later.
No, it was I was in Jackson for a little over 3 years, and it was time well spent for sure. I mean, and that really is where all that stuff really came together. I was like riding bikes 3, 4, 5 days a week, and
skiing Jackson Hole.
Skiing 100 days a year.
Yeah.
And, Jackson has you can sharpen your knife there for sure. And got in with the cool kids, and skied a ton.
Mm-hmm.
It was super fun.
Did you pick up touring around that time? Like
yeah, I picked up touring there, and that's where I met my wife, Hillary, and we kind of did the long distance thing for a while I was living up there, and then it was finally time I needed to come down here, so that was like kind of 96, 7-ish, and the rest is history after that with the family.
So what did that look like for your athletics? You got a couple little kids at home, you got a wife, I'm sure you got a real job now.
Yeah.
How do you stay stoked, be a good dad, how do you balance all that?
It's funny. I mean, I have this conversation with people a lot, right? And I'm always telling my friends that are younger that have kids, I'm like, it's a slowdown, but it's not a complete departure.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find time, and I feel like Hillary and I did like a really good job of finding the balance with kids. I was still trying to race. She kind of wanted to race. So we would take your year, my year, and we'd be going to the races, and kids in front packs. And
so you would take a year where you're riding your mountain bike just for fun, but she's training. She's getting ready for a race.
Yeah, she was the racer that year.
That's cool.
So we did that for a few years. And then as the kids got a little bit older, you could start to separate a little bit, but I can't remember what year it was. We were living up here, and I was like, okay, I'm all in on racing this year. And it kind of was probably this time of the year when I got that mindset going, and I was getting ready. And I think my daughter was pretty young at that point, but I remember one day getting on the bike and taking off. I was getting ready to go on like a 3 or 4 hour ride or something, and I got like 2 or 3 miles from the house, and I was just like, what am I fucking doing?
It's too much.
Like, this is just, it's too much. It's stupid.
Yeah.
This is selfish, kind of like fighting that. And I rode back to the house and hung the bike up and was like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And, like kind of regrouped. And I remember, I think that summer we were like, just was riding for fun, and still going for rides and still kind of pushing the envelope. But, you find, like, again, it was too selfish at that point of life. So.
Well, I've got a 5-month-old daughter, so she's small. Yeah. But on the front end, my wife and I did not exactly what you guys are doing, but we talked a ton about this is what I need to be able to do in the mountains to not hate this entire scene.
Yeah.
And so it's mid-February, and I've already got 45 or so, 50 days
Yeah.
skiing, still able to climb. So I think for the kids' years, what I'm learning just from listening to other people is you've got to be supportive of making sure your wife, your husband is able to do their thing, you're able to do your thing, and like figure out how to make it work.
For sure. I mean, I feel like we had such good balance, and our kids had the opportunity, you know, to do all these things. So like, as we started to get a little bit older, you know, I mean, unfortunately, like lift serve and all the flowy fun stuff wasn't quite sparking when our kids were young. So it was like, hey, let's go for a mountain bike ride. You know, it was like ride uphill for an hour, and they're like,
not doing
this
that.
sucks.
Yeah.
Why do you guys like to do this? You know, both of them have come around now and love biking. But yeah, you know, I mean, I think that time of getting to ski with them really, like, that kind of re-energized me, like, to the max. You know?
Yeah, getting to
like,
do it with
getting to
Toby.
ski with Toby and Emma, and you know, and I think, you know, that was really like the start of it. And I mean, Toby was a competitive big mountain skier, so got to start chasing him around doing that thing. And my daughter Emma has always loved to ski, and probably now more so than she did in her middle, kind of early tween years. But you know, and that was really kind of the re-kick. And I never let go of the bike thing. I mean, the bike thing has always been, and I've always, I don't know, kind of had that reputation of being a fast, like, descending technical rider. So when enduro came along, I was like, oh yeah,
It was made for me.
yeah, this is good. You know,
Yeah.
fast twitch, power driven riding skills, and I love that. I mean, and it's fun, and it's competitive. It's racing.
Yeah.
And I like to race.
Yeah.
I still like to
Still
race.
just have the love for
I
it.
love the,
Yeah.
you know, the spark. They're nothing better.
Yeah. It's sick,
It's
dude.
like crack.
Yeah. Competition's bad for me. I find that fascinating. Some people are like, competition really gets them going, and for me, competition's bad because I'll neglect every other aspect of my life,
Yeah.
and I can't balance it. So with all of since I got into more of the mountain sports, I avoid competition like almost entirely because just personality wise, I've turned into a moron. It's hard to.
It
Hard to
is.
keep it
It's
together.
hard. It's hard to manage it when I think you're a competitive mindset, and it. I mean, I'd be lying. I mean, it is something I work on. You know, it's like can't be some competitive like with every element
single
of
thing.
my life. You know.
Yeah. You start to annoy people too. They're
Yeah,
like,
for
chill
sure.
out.
Like you don't make any friends that way.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like I'm getting better at that, but I still, you know, I think just because of like starting at such an early age and the competitive thing, and like working hard and seeing results, and you know, that just the cool thing about enduro, cool thing about like cyclocross racing, these are both are sports where you don't have to like kill yourself training to be
decent.
fairly competitive. I mean, you can train up a little bit and like kick ass, you know. And I mean, I raced cyclocross. That was a great sport when the kids were young for me because it was in the fall, it's winter, like we didn't have anything really going on. It's like go blow it out for an hour. You can drool and snot yourself to death, and like that sport's cool for me again because it's a little more quick twitch and power driven.
Yeah.
It's not so much endurance and you know, bike handling skills. It was like right up my alley.
Yeah, it's
so
perfect.
I loved it. But yeah.
So you're 56 and you stayed stoked. We talked about that. Kids helped, which is probably surprising to people that don't have kids. But you're still, I only know of one significant injury you've had. You blew your knee out like 3 years ago or so. Due to a series of poor choices. We'd met each other at that point.
Yes. Well, yeah, we met though the day you walked in this gym, I think.
Yeah, I think you were here right when I started.
I met you and was introduced to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what I find really interesting is you've been active this whole time and you haven't had any major setbacks. Like we could talk about Johnny, who trains in here, like 4 blown knees on one side, 3 blown knees on the other side, 6 back surgeries, whatever. So we all know people that have had a similar approach. What do you attribute your ability to stay healthy and stay at it? Like,
well, I mean, I think part of it was just luck of the draw, you know. I mean, I wouldn't say my parents were you know, thoroughbred athletes by any stretch of the imagination. My mom wasn't super athletic really at all. Horse equestrian kind of stuff, you know, more on the Western rodeo side. And then my dad was a team roper, but wasn't much of an athlete. But I think you know, his thing was always mental, and he taught me a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, just, you know, kind of this, you remember all the PMA shit, you know, positive mental attitude, and, you know, if you can think it, you can do it, you can be it kind of approach. And my dad was big into that stuff and really got me going in it, like collegiate hurdles, you know. He gave me this tape that was like, you know, mental, like lay down, envision yourself over, you know, doing whatever you're, like going through the race, every hurdle, start, finish, winning, you know, and like, so I think, you know, a lot of it has been mental for me. Like, I kind of refuse to just let go of, like, doing what I do. I've always had the mentality, I think, and then my dad, again, was always like, you know, I can sleep when I'm dead, and I'm not going to stop until. And that's exactly the way he lived his life. And so I learned that, I think, from him. And I just, it's not ignoring the aging, but it's not like saying, oh my God, I'm getting old and I got to slow down and I can't do this anymore. That to me, like when you met me, I blew my knee. I think I told you, I was like, I'm not going to let this define my future.
Yeah, you were back at it in 9 months. You
just like,
you put in the work to get it better. Like, you were very diligent. So I find that interesting with the positive mental attitude, and like you can do this for mountain biking, downhill, and alpine skiing. There's definitely situations where you're charging, and you're like, oh, if I lose it here, like nighty-night, like could be bad. Could hit a tree, could rock a cliff, could
there's a lot of
tomahawk.
shoulda, coulda, wouldas in all these sports.
And I'm curious if you think that positive mental attitude or kind of the mental training where you get into that, you're not like, oh no, I'm gonna eat shit. You're like, no, I'm gonna nail this. And then you happen to nail it. Because that's a huge difference between injury and not being injured is you got to be clutch when you got to be clutch. And do you think the mindset thing helps you?
Like, I mean, I will think about, like, if, you know, I remember this specifically, Moab enduro race, leading into it, and it's fast. I mean, and it's really hard terrain.
That was gnarly.
Hard terrain, right? It's like riding on cement, and you're riding 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just penning it. And I remember leading into that thinking, God, I mean, I'm getting old, and if I crash doing this is...
Because it's going to be bad.
This is an ender, you know, and I letting that creep in, and, you know, and then I got into it, I was like, I just can't think like that, you know, and I find myself thinking like that a little bit now, but I also find myself thinking, if I don't just keep doing this and doing it at the right pace and speed and attack, that's when I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't feel weak. So I'm not ready yet to pull off. You know? So, I mean, I want to keep going.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. I think that's big, is if you're willing to put yourself in a high consequence situation, such as a crash going 40 miles an hour on slick rock, and you get like fear creeps in as you're coming into a turn or a drop or something, you're much more likely to be injured. So having that mindset of like, I got this.
I think it's it is visualization though. I was just thinking as you were saying that, you know, it's like, I mean, I'll watch somebody do something, I was like, I can do that.
Yeah,
like,
you just
and,
watch what they
and
do.
I mean, it's like you pull up, you look at it, and it's like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And there's no hesitation of, can I do this? I don't know.
That's a lot of times that's where you're going to get hurt. If you think, can you do that, and you don't flip to absolutely, you probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
If it's a high consequence.
Right. I mean, there are, like, I mean, I'm not going to go hucking myself off a 40-foot cliff after my kid or something tomorrow, but,
Why not?
you know, I'll still huck off something and, you know, do stupid things. And I feel alive when I'm doing that.
I saw you
so
backflip attempt a couple years ago. Sunk both tips right in.
Yep.
That's sick.
Still, hopefully I'll get that to feet here pretty soon.
You can try that again this year?
Maybe.
Yeah.
If the snow's right.
Dude, you're supposed to get 30 inches this weekend.
Could be good, but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Just to wrap things up, what do you think has been one of the biggest, most impactful pieces to get you to where you are now, where you're still psyched, you're still healthy, you've added some gym stuff since you've got a little bit older, might we say? Because you did come in and you said, oh, I'm starting to feel like a little bit flat. And then some strength work, and you're like, oh, I got it back, I'm bouncy, which is cool. So what do you think is important for you if we sit down 10 years from now when you think you're 67? And what do you think is important for you to still be stoked, still be getting after it in a decade? Like, what do you need to focus on?
Yeah. I mean, I'll back it up, because I think, you know, like being in the gym, it's so important. I mean, I really feel like it's just a huge part of what I do. Even if I get here 2 days a week, I feel like that adds so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm doing other things. I can't really do more than that. If I can, I may sneak one more day in, but like 2 days a week works.
It was working really well for you.
Works well.
Yeah. Because what all are you doing right now? Like, we hardly see it. Well, you come on days I'm not here, but...
Yeah, I'm trying Tuesdays and Thursdays, like, come and
skied the last 4 days in a row.
Yeah,
right?
And then I'm skiing, like I Nordic skied today.
Yeah.
You know, Nordic skiing is a key ingredient, like keeping that endurance level.
Mm-hmm.
When the skiing's good, and it's been good the last few years, it's hard for me to say, oh, I'm going to go Nordic ski, because, I mean, I have a job as well, and, you know, it's like ski, work. Should I go Nordic and get a little cardio? I'll let that slide.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think you're right. I mean, I learned early. I didn't do shit in high school. And did well. I mean, I went to college, and then I got to college, and they were like, oh, we're going to get your ass in the weight room. And, you know, I shaved off like a second off of my 110 hurdle time, which... That's a sprint.
Yeah, that's a second's a lot.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and my jumps all went like through the roof, and part of that was maturity, but I mean, a big part of it was being on a program. So, you know, fast forward through all the rest of those years, it was like there was a little fitness here and there, you know, you'd run, but I mean, most of it was just ski and bike, and that was your fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the last probably in my 40 to 50, I was starting to think, gosh, I really need to do something else, but didn't really want to. And then I finally came in here and was like, okay, let's try this CrossFit thing. And, you know, that didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it felt like I was always sore, you know, and always too much. Mm-hmm. And so when I met you, you know, I felt like it was just this... Like it was right. I mean, we talking about like the more of the mobility stuff, and you know, I mean, there is some strength in there, but it's more the agility, like being more athletic like doing the plyos and the bouncy and all of that, just really was like, oh yeah, this is it, you know. And I think the knee thing in the midst of that, I think, you know, you and I had been working together for a year, and then I blew my knee. And then it was like, Ben, I need your help. Let's get this thing back to 110%.
Mm-hmm.
And we did, you know. And I mean, I attribute a lot of that to, you know, working with you. And I mean, I had a good PT, but I think it was the stuff we were doing on the other side of it. So, you know, I think it's like that. It's mental. It's keeping, like we talked about. There has to be, I think if you're going to keep pushing the envelope of skiing and biking and doing these mountain activities that are most of them are high impact, and you got to be doing something more, I believe.
Yeah.
And, hey, I crashed a couple of times last summer on my mountain bike, and I presume maybe some 50, 60-year-olds go down like that, going 20 miles an hour into a berm or something. Something's gonna break, and I attribute I think part of that is doing the work in here. Being a little more mobile and being able to take a blow like that and get up and be like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think I want to keep working that and trying to keep pace. I don't feel like I need to downshift yet.
Keep it rolling, baby.
I'd like to still be going super hard into my 70s.
Hell yeah, I like it.
That's the goal.
So the important thing is just keep out in the mountains. You got to do your mountain stuff, and that's 4 or 5 days a week, and then when
but
you
gotta be
can
having fun doing
back it up. If it's not fun, why are you out there?
Well, then that's what we talk about, the stoke of. I don't know. My wife Hillary heckles me all the time because it's I'm always like, man, it's good, and she looks at me and she's like, it's okay. I'm
nah, it's good.
We're sliding. This is awesome. And that, I don't know. I love gravity, and that it stokes me. And skiing is that, and ripping down, a trail in the summer. There's, I don't know. They're both super cool, but I can't one over the other. I don't know, but that. It just is. It fires me up. I get super kind of crazy stoked about it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that's a good place to wrap up. Just keep the stoke alive, keep doing the thing, and then a little bit of gym time, but not too much.
Got to get into the gym.
Love it.
Thanks for all your help, buddy.